The village of Eldoria was quiet most days. Small houses made of wood lined the narrow dirt roads, and farmers worked in the fields from sunrise until sunset. Everyone in the village believed in hard work. Everyone except one boy. His name was Ethan. Or at least that's what his parents had named him. But the villagers rarely called him that anymore. To them, he was simply the lazy boy. "Look at him again," one farmer whispered while passing Ethan's house. "Still sleeping while everyone else is working." Another man shook his head. "That boy will never achieve anything in his life." Inside the small house, Ethan sat near the window staring at the sky. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't laughing. He just looked empty. His father walked in and placed a sack of grain on the floor. His clothes were covered with dust from the fields. "Ethan," his father said with a tired voice, "the crops are failing again this year." Ethan stayed silent. His mother slowly placed a bowl of soup in front of him. "We are trying our best," she said softly. "But things are getting harder." Ethan lowered his head. For the first time in a long time, he felt something heavy inside his chest. Guilt. That night he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the disappointed look in his parents' eyes. "They work so hard, and I do nothing," he whispered to himself. But the next morning, something unexpected happened. The competition begins in 3 days at the royal palace. Ethan returned home. His parents were surprised. "You entered the competition?" his mother asked. "Yes." His father sighed. "I don't expect you to win, Ethan. But if this helps you learn the value of hard work, then go." That night Ethan packed a small bag. Before sunrise the next morning, he began his journey to the palace. 3 days later, Ethan finally reached the capital city. He had never seen anything so grand. Tall towers touched the sky. Guards stood at giant gates. And hundreds of contestants had gathered near a large sparkling lake outside the palace. Some were muscular warriors. Others looked like experienced travelers. Ethan suddenly felt very small. "How can I compete with them?" he whispered. A royal officer stepped forward. "The first challenge will now begin." Everyone became quiet. "You must cross this lake. The first 3 contestants to reach the other side will move to the final round." The crowd cheered. Contestants stretched their arms and prepared themselves. Ethan looked at the water. The lake was huge. And he was not a strong swimmer. "Ready," the officer shouted. 3, 2, 1, go. Everyone jumped into the lake. Water splashed everywhere. Powerful swimmers moved forward quickly. But Ethan stood still. He watched them disappear into the distance. "If I swim like them, I will lose." He looked around. Then suddenly, he smiled. An idea appeared in his mind. Ethan ran toward the nearby forest. Some people noticed him leaving. "Look. The lazy boy already gave up." But Ethan wasn't quitting. He was thinking. Inside the forest, he quickly gathered broken branches and long pieces of wood. Using vines and rope from his bag, he tied them together. After a few minutes, he had built a small wooden raft. He grabbed a stick and used it as a paddle. Ethan pushed the raft into the water. "This is a race to cross the lake," he said quietly. "Not a swimming race." Slowly, he paddled forward. At first he was far behind. But the swimmers began to get tired. Their arms moved slower. Some even stopped to rest. Meanwhile Ethan continued paddling steadily. One by one, he passed them. "Wait, what?" A contestant looked shocked. "Where did that raft come from?" Ethan kept going. Closer. Closer. Closer to the finish line. Finally, he crossed the lake third. The royal officer raised his flag. "Third place. Qualified for the final round." The crowd was stunned. The lazy boy passed the first challenge. Ethan stepped onto the shore breathing heavily. Two powerful contestants stood beside him. Both looked extremely strong. The final round would happen the next day. Ethan knew something. Strength alone would not win this competition. He needed to think smarter again. And tomorrow's challenge would decide everything. The next morning, the Royal Arena was filled with excitement. Thousands of people had gathered to watch the final round of the competition. Whispers spread through the crowd. Did you hear? The lazy village boy actually reached the final. No way, oh that must be luck. Ethan stood quietly among the two remaining contestants. Both of them looked powerful and confident. One was a tall warrior with huge muscles. The other looked like an experienced athlete. Compared to them, Ethan looked weak and ordinary. For a moment, doubt returned to his mind. What if everyone is right? What if I really can't win? But then he remembered something. His parents' tired faces. The broken roof of their house. And the villagers laughing at him. Ethan took a deep breath. No. I didn't come this far to give up. A royal officer stepped forward and raised his hand. Silence. The arena became quiet instantly. The final challenge will now begin. Guards rolled out 3 massive wooden blocks and placed one in front of each contestant. Each block looked extremely heavy. The officer continued. You must push your wooden block 1 kilometer to the finish line. The first contestant to cross the line will be the winner. The crowd cheered loudly. Then the officer pointed behind them. Behind you are many tools. You may choose only one tool to help you. Ethan turned around. There were ropes, wooden sticks, metal hooks, and many other tools. The contestants began thinking. The muscular warrior quickly grabbed a thick rope. I'll drag the block with my strength, he said confidently. The second contestant picked a long wooden bar. I'll use this as a lever, he said. Both of them rushed to start the challenge. But Ethan didn't move. He stood there quietly, staring at the tools. People in the crowd started whispering. Why isn't he choosing anything? Maybe he finally realized he can't win. But Ethan was thinking carefully. If I try to push the block with my strength, I will lose. I need to win with my mind. After a moment, Ethan slowly picked up a small knife. The crowd looked confused. Did he really pick a knife? How can a knife help him move that giant block? Even the king, sitting on his golden throne, leaned forward with curiosity. What is that boy planning? The king wondered. Instead of pushing the block, Ethan knelt down beside it and started cutting the wood. The crowd became even more confused. Is he crazy? He's wasting time. Meanwhile, the two strong contestants were already dragging their heavy blocks forward. Their muscles strained as they pulled with all their strength. The blocks barely moved. Sweat covered their faces. But Ethan kept carving the wood. Slowly. Carefully. Piece by piece. Minutes passed. Then nearly an hour. Finally, Ethan stepped back. The large wooden block was no longer a block. He had carved it into a round wooden ball. The moment people realized what he had done, the crowd gasped. Wait. If it's round, it can roll. Ethan smiled slightly. Then he pushed the wooden ball. It rolled forward easily. While the other contestants struggled to drag their heavy blocks, Ethan simply rolled his ball down the road. The difference was unbelievable. The strong contestants looked back in shock as Ethan quickly caught up. No way, one of them shouted. Ethan pushed harder. The ball rolled faster. Soon he passed the first contestant. Then the second. The crowd began cheering loudly. Go, Ethan. The lazy boy is winning. Ethan gave one final push. The wooden ball rolled across the finish line. The royal officer raised his flag. winner. Ethan is the champion. The arena exploded with cheers. The king slowly stood up from his throne. He walked toward Ethan with a proud smile. "Young man," the king said. "Everyone here thought you were the weakest contestant. But today you proved something important. Strength is not always the greatest power. Sometimes the greatest power is intelligence." The king signaled to the guards. They brought forward a large chest filled with gold coins. "This reward belongs to you." Ethan looked at the treasure in disbelief. He had done it. He had actually won. A few days later, Ethan returned to his village. The same villagers who once laughed at him were now staring in shock. The boy they called lazy had returned as a champion. His parents ran toward him with tears in their eyes. "You did it," his mother whispered. Ethan smiled. "No," he said. "We did it." That day Ethan used the gold to repair his house and help his family. But something else had changed too. The villagers no longer called him lazy. Now they called him the smartest boy in the village. Sometimes people think that being lazy means someone is useless. But that isn't always true. Sometimes a person simply hasn't found the right reason to try. When Ethan finally had a